Resume. I think we have dealt with the problem. Mr. Hui, I think you can now see the wording. Mr. Gary Fan, thank you. I speak in support of the proposal to discuss the motion, and we should also put the motion from Ms. Tanya Chen to the vote. I agree with her on both parts of her motion. The SG is the head of the Secretariat, and the SG represents the Secretariat in providing support to electrical members. So in relation to the need to have the SG witnessing the election of the chairman and deputy chairman of the House Committee, so as to enable us to have a smooth meeting and to answer questions that members may have. And since we have checked the record in relation to the attendance of our SG, I think it is right for us to deal with this motion. I would find it odd for the SG to be absent. Well, it is said that the SG is accountable to the chairman of the Electrical Commission, but we know that he's an employee of the Electrical, and he is also accountable to all the 70 Electrical members. For the past few months, on a number of occasions, at critical moments in relation to the Fugitive Offenders Ordinance saga, we had the impression that he had not observed the need to be politically neutral. So we'll be interested to know how he discharged his duties. And I've explained the background to you so that you know why we take it so seriously. Now that we are embarking on the election of the chairman and deputy chairman of the House Committee, if the SG is present, then he'll be ready to take questions from members if we have questions, or if we have to look up certain papers, documents, or records, he will be there to assist us. So the request is most reasonable. It is the right thing to do. The second point is about the special meetings. Ms. Tanya Chen cited certain examples, like in the case of the Lama Vessel Coalition, the work of the Commission of Poverty, etc. He was present. So it would be odd if he doesn't attend today's special meeting. For us to have a discussion, or if we are to set a good precedent, I think it would be good. And then the SG is the head of the Secretariat. I think it should become a convention for the SG to be present at special meetings of the House Committee in future, when we need technical support, when we talk about accountability of the Secretariat, etc. I think this good precedent will be very much facilitating. So, Chair, on the basis of what I've just said, I believe that we need to proceed with the motion proposed by Ms. Tanya Chen. First of all, the SG should be present to witness the election of the chair and deputy chair. And second, he should be present at the special meetings of the House Committee. We need to discuss such matters and to put the matter to the vote. Next, Ms. Claudia Mo. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, I give my full support to Ms. Tanya Chen's proposals. However, there's one thing which is very much ironical. Kenneth Chen, the name of Kenneth Chen has been mentioned numerous times. If we try to count the number of times, it will be alarming. It has become a household name. We've asked him to come many times, but then he has said that it's not up to us to summon him. We may be criticizing him verbally, or we may be having a formal motion to criticize him, but still, he just ignores us. It is odd because he's an employee of the LegCo. In other words, he's being an employee of all the LegCo members. He is not coming. And what can we do? What can we make of it? In a moment, we are going to put the matter to the vote. I've reason to believe that there would be members who think that there's no need for us to proceed with the motion before us. Now, in Ms. Chen's motion, I think the first one is to ask Mr. Chen to attend our meetings. I think it is but right for him to attend our meetings, but he has chosen not to come, so we have to move such a motion. It's odd. How can you be accountable to the public in Hong Kong? What about his monthly salary? I can't remember the exact figure, but it must be a lot of money. It must be more than us. Certainly, it will be much more than our salary, and probably he earns more than the undersecretaries, though not the secretaries themselves. I don't think this is desirable. Well, he has this title of being the Secretary General. I never see him. For our president, from time to time, I come across him on the escalator. But then for Kenneth Chen, a household name, for this figure, I would say that I have almost not seen him at all since the summer recess. It's outrageous. As to the second point, we need his attendance at our special meetings. Again, I would say that this goes without saying. The Pope is Catholic. It goes without saying. But then he is not doing it, and we are worried that he's not coming. That's why we still have to put in such a motion.
In the wording of Ms. Tanya Chan's motion, the Secretary General is asked to address questions from members. It's very normal that we have questions about the election of chairman and deputy chairman, but since he is not here, we are unable to ask our questions. And he should be very familiar with the issue, and he should have provided information. His predecessor wrote a book about LegCo procedures. Mr. Chan's predecessor was very familiar with all the procedures, and it has become sort of a handbook for us. The air outside is very bad. Remnants of tear gas has drifted over from Tsim Sha Tsui, so you can see that I'm coughing. Do you need some water? Presiding member. What I don't like about the Secretary General's absence is that on the Legislative Council Road, well, I'm not talking about Tim May Avenue, and outside the protest area of the LegCo building, well, this is what is known as Legislative Council Road. This is a very short road. I'd like to know what other candidates make of that road. Of course, streets are not managed by LegCo, but on this very short road known as Legislative Council Road, how long has it been sealed off? This is atrocious. But the LegCo Commission did not issue any red or black or blue warning, but yet they sealed off the road. So what is actually going on? Can someone explain this to us? You said roads have nothing to do with the electoral commission, so the police can do whatever they want. This has to do with all employees of Electco as well as Electco members. It's about their commutes. Well, of course, I'm an employee too. I'm an employee of Hong Kong people. Electco should be a platform to represent Hong Kong people. This might sound trivial, but I have been staying silent for months over this. So sometimes the Electco road is open for one-way access, and sometimes only southbound or northbound access is allowed. So if you go out and take a look at the road, the entire road has been sealed off, Mr. Kenneth Leung. For the southbound and northbound traffic or the road access, what does it have to do with the election of the deputy and deputy chairman of the House Committee? Well, I thought I have made it extremely clear. Well, he wasn't paying attention. I said, I realized Electco or the Electco Commission cannot manage a road because managing roads are not within your ambit, but we are talking about the Legislative Council road. So it is located right outside the protest area of the Electco complex. So without any warnings issued, why is that the case, Mr. Kenneth Leung? The Electco Commission is obliged to discuss with the police security or traffic arrangements within the vicinity of the Electco complex. I believe that is what Ms. Mo is referring to. Yes, this is exactly the point. I think someone owes us an explanation, but I do not know who to turn to. Apparently, the Electco Commission is yet to be formed. So Mr. Kenneth Chan, as Secretary General, should explain the situation. What was the communication process, who made orders, and whether any objection was raised. We are talking about a public area, so why has that road been blocked? I thought Mr. Chan would have attended the meeting today, but he's not here, and this is completely unacceptable. I stress that I totally support Ms. Chan's motion. Mr. Kenneth Leung. Thank you. There are two parts to Ms. Chan's motion. The first part invites Mr. Kenneth Chan to witness the election of the chairman and deputy chairman of the House Committee. So why must he witness the process? I think there are two main reasons. But Ms. Tanya Chan has not clarified those reasons. I might just be speculating, but nonetheless, let me say what I want to say. First of all, under the hierarchy of Electco, the House Committee Chairman is the number 2, just behind the Electco President. In 2018, we amended the rules of procedure, and for future election of the Electco President, the presiding member would no longer be the most experienced member, but instead it will be presided over by the Electco Secretary General, and there are a few problems with this. Chairman, as a highly experienced member as well as barrister. You could feel how challenging it is to preside over the chairman of the election of chairman and deputy chairman of the House Committee. So Mr. Kenneth Chan, as a senior figure of the Secretary General, he does not have the power to preside over meetings. And he should not have the power to preside over meetings. And he is merely presiding over the election of the LegCo president. So that is not a meeting. So in the future, as a senior figure, when Mr. Kenneth Chan presides over the election of the LegCo president, well, it is not a meeting. It is simply a process. There are no rights he can exercise. He could only read out the annex, and there are no other powers that can be invoked, and the election process would not amount to a meeting. So how would he preside over the meeting? I think he should learn from you, presiding member, and he should see how you preside over meetings. Well, he does not have the power to allow any motions. He is simply a senior member of staff, and he is not a member of the meetings. So he must witness the election of the chairman and deputy chairman, because he should be here to learn from the presiding member, and he should see what he should witness the election process. He will not have the power to preside over the election of the president, which will probably happen next year. So by the time we are in a deadlock again, what will happen? I hope the Secretariat will also clarify whether the upcoming LegCo president election will be a meeting or an ordinary meeting or special meeting. If it is none of those, the rules of procedure and House rules would not be applied. I want to go on record as saying that the future election of the LegCo president would not be subject to any rules in this book. So what will happen by then? So he should be here to learn something. Mr. Chan did attend some special meetings, and Ms. Tanya Chan cited examples in which Mr. Kenneth Chan did attend certain special meetings. But as for the criteria of attendance, what meetings he chose to attend and how long would he stay in the meetings, was it dictated by himself or the House Committee chairman? This is still an unknown. So this is a question I'm asking on Ms. Tanya Chan's behalf. Did the meeting records indicate why Mr. Chan attended those meetings? And was there any justification for inviting him? Ms. Chan, would you like to clarify? I mentioned a few instances, for example, over the Fugitive Offenders Ordinance. I wasn't here, so other members might be more familiar with this, and poverty alleviation and the Lamma Island incident. Well, apparently 2012 was a long time ago. and no explanation was given at that time on why he was absent or present. So who made the decision? Was it decided by himself, or would the chairman at that time? So it was probably Mr. Andrew Leung, the then chairman of the House Committee, or Ms. Dari Lee. Ms. Dari Lee was chairman of the HC in 2018 to 19. She said the secretariat should be politically neutral. But so why did the Secretary General not always attend the meeting? So who made the decision? I think this is something we should consult the HC chairman. Thank you for the clarification. As to whether to attend, whether Mr. Chan should attend the special meetings, well, the Electoral Commission is like the board of a company, but unfortunately, the Electoral Commission or board of directors is yet to be formed. In other words, the company doesn't yet have a board. They only have a chairman or director. So why am I trying to draw comparisons with the company's law? If we just talk about rules of procedure or practice, again, this red book is very important. Rules of procedure and house rules of the Legislative Council of the HKSAR. All the rules in this book are guiding principles, and there are no detailed provisions to cover all specific scenarios. So the company's law is 500 to 600 pages in length, and there are similarities, and that is we don't have a board, but there is a director, and all electoral members are stakeholders or shareholders of the company. So if a staff member of the company can do or choose not to do anything they want, the board no longer has the power or can no longer exercise their powers. Electoral Commission members are agents of all or proxies of all electoral members. They are elected by all electoral members, and the Electoral Commission is authorized to exercise all powers under the Electoral Commission Ordinance.
Well, in fact, there's also a provision to say that any provision in the Electoral Commission Ordinance may, as a result of a resolution moved at the Electoral meeting, be amended. In other words, for the Electoral Commission Ordinance, yes, indeed, it's a piece of legislation. As long as we can pass a resolution at an electoral meeting, we can make changes to such powers. I think throughout our history, this has never been done. This is because I think the Electoral Commission Ordinance has been broadly worded so as to allow the Commission a lot of powers, though the powers are not checked. So this is worrying. The powers are unchecked. Well, and it has a bearing on each and every electoral member. I like to compare this case with that of a company. Now, we have got a senior staff member. He chooses to attend a meeting or not. Well, let me remind you that you have spoken for more than 10 minutes. Well, I think you have given the floor to Dr. Kiki Kwok for more than 15 minutes. Usually, I spoke for 5 or 6 minutes. Not that I deny you the floor, but then I just want to remind you. Yes, I'm watching the timer. I'm going to wrap up in a few minutes. I have to point out in the case that the board of directors cannot exercise its powers, you may say that at most we account for no more than 30 or 40% of the stakeholders, but still it is a significant portion. I don't think a shareholder's request can be ignored. So I have to ask this question. Who can give him directions or directives? Just the president or what? When we check our rules of procedures, I think the SG has got a lot of duties, a lot of functions to exercise. And I don't think it has been said that he simply performs his duties for the president alone. So he's not there just to carry out the orders of the president. In fact, he has to take care of the needs of the majority of the members. Now, members here are saying that we need the SG to give assistance to the presiding member. We aren't even talking about the security arrangements. For weeks, we're having this meeting, and lots of questions have been asked. Now, the most senior officer within the executive department here is not coming to provide assistance to us. Well, the SG of the LegCo is to provide a clerk to each and every committee. It's been set out in black and white. Currently, our clerk is most competent. However, if the clerk to this committee cannot answer our questions, or if she thinks that she needs a more senior staff member to give some clarification, then I would say that the most senior member should be present here to help the presiding member to chair the meeting. He can instantly provide the information. So I'm not talking about security matters or confidentiality of the information. Rather, it's more about facilitating your work as the presiding member over the election of the chair. So I think it is reasonable to expect him to be in attendance. So for the two parts in tenure change motion, I think they are sensible and reasonable, and I hope that we can proceed with the motion. Next, Mr. Leung Yiu-chung. Thank you, Chair. Ms. Tanya Chan explained the two parts of her motion. Yes, indeed, there are two parts to her motion, but then I think the two should be taken together. This is because for the first one, that's about House Committee meetings, and she expects the SG to be in attendance. The second part refers to the special meetings of our House Committee. Well, for special meetings of the House Committee, I think we're talking about exceptional circumstances and special cases. I think you need to know that when we have our regular meetings, we deal with our routine business. That's why we have regular meetings. Regular meetings cannot deal with special items, and so we need special meetings. But they are still House Committee meetings. The only special point is about the agenda items. If he attends our regular meetings, all the more he has to attend our special meetings. Therefore, we should take the two parts together. It is but right to do so. And if he has to attend our House Committee meetings, the logic goes that he has to attend our special meetings as well. We usually see him in attendance when we hold our regular meetings, so I find it odd, and it is unjustifiable for him to choose not to attend our special meetings. Well, for regular meetings, we have our agendas, and if we can't deal with an item at the regular meetings, we have special meetings. So it is unjustifiable for him to be absent from our special meetings. The LegCo Secretariat provides service to the LegCo members. We have a pamphlet. It says that under the supervision of the LC Commission, the Secretariat provides administrative support to the LegCo. The mission of the Secretariat is to provide professional and quality Secretariat service research materials, administrative support, and provision of electrical service. Well, this SG attends our regular House Committee meetings so as to provide a senior level of secretariat service. Other than the electrical meetings, I think next right under it within our hierarchy would be the House Committee meetings. So for special meetings, they're the same as our regular meetings. The only difference lies in the agenda, but they are still House Committee meetings, and therefore when they provide service at a senior level, then I would expect the SG to be present as well. So I would argue that the SG must give us a very good reason to explain why he's absent from our meeting. And I don't think there is a need to seek the specific agreement or consent of the Electoral Commission for him to attend or not. Well, Ms. Chen, I'm afraid it's superfluous for you to move this motion, because what you talk about in your motion is something that is rightly to be expected. However, we haven't seen the SG. I think that's why you would like to use this motion to force him to attend our meeting. So both are unreasonable. Unreasonable for him to be absent and unreasonable for you to rely on this motion to compel his attendance. But still, since we've been inviting him, urging him, reminding him to come, and still he's absent without good reason, we can't draw a gun and force him to attend. So I think there's no way out but rely on this motion to ask for his attendance. Probably the motion is not going to be carried. Even when it fails to be carried, I think you have to take it up with the SG seriously. That is, if we read the handbook on services provided for members by the Electoral Secretariat, we still want him to come because he's the SG, and I think he need to provide such service to us. And so after the meeting, please take it up with the SG. Next, Mr. Ao. Thank you. I hope that you, being the presiding member, can proceed with the motion proposed by Ms. Tanya Chen. But then we have already spent a lot of time on ways or measures to be adopted to invite Kenneth Chen to come. So from time to time, I got a glimpse of his face. Maybe he's a bit shy. It occurred to me that he was trying to stay away. I think we need to address this issue. If we can't deal with this matter today, I think somehow we need to get hold of him and ask him to come here. I think Mr. Kenneth Leung is right to compare the electrical with a company. Say, for example, if we haven't got a CEO to help us with the electoral matters or to answer our questions, I think the directors should help, or the directors should order the CEO to come over to help us to deal with the issues. I think it's a good comparison. But then I'm troubled by this point, that is, who is the right director to ask the SG Kenneth Chen to come here. Recently, I read a paper on the directorship of electoral members. For the pandemics, I don't think it is quite right for us to do so, because none of us has taken up any directorship or being non-executive directors, but then the contrary is true for the other camp. Say, for example, Mr. Junius Ho is a director and has been quite successful. Give me some time to talk about his successful performance. He has been a non-executive director for Heng Fan Company. The sort of value has been enhanced by 40%. Sorry, are you talking about his work as a non-executive director? Yes, about the changes in the share price. What is the relevance? Well, it is said that for members who act as directors, many of them are working for companies that have lost a lot of money. In the case of Mr. Ho, this is a different story. Perhaps we should ask Mr. Ho to invite Mr. Kenneth Chan to come. I don't quite understand. Well, let me explain the matter in a simple way. Now, Kenneth Leung said that the LegCo is like a company. We are not able to invite the CEO to deal with the issue together with us. And it was said that we need to ask certain directors to make sure that this is being met with. So who should be a director? I was saying that Democrats have not been directors of companies, while the contrary is true for the other camp. Well, you say that Mr. Junius Ho is a non-executive director, but I fail to see how this is related to Ms. Tanya Chan's motion to ask Kenneth Chan to attend. Well, let me talk about the indirect relationship. Somehow, we need certain people to look for Kenneth Chan and ask him to come. Well, perhaps I am not a heavyweight. Nobody would care for what I'm saying. Let's find somebody to look for him and invite him to come.
Of course, it would be great to deal with this as part of the agenda, but since 3 other members are waiting to speak, we have 15 minutes left to the meeting, so perhaps the other members can each speak for 5 minutes, and we might not be able to deal with this item, but nonetheless, we still have to get Mr. Kenneth Chan to attend, so perhaps we can ask some directors to invite him. Ms. Ao Nohin, please focus your debate on Ms. Tanya Chan's motion. Well, I will try to make things simple. Well, Mr. Kenneth Leung used the analogy of the company's law. Well, I was referring to Mr. Kenneth Leung. Well, he used the analogy of the company's law. So perhaps we should stop using that analogy. So it would be good if we can deal with Ms. Tanya Chan's motion today, but even if we cannot, we must approach Mr. Kenneth Chan as soon as possible. If we are unable to deal with this agenda item or invite Mr. Kenneth Chan to attend, we must ask a LegCo member to approach him. I don't know who is relatively close to Mr. Kenneth Chan. Well, I can do the job, but I might not. It's just that I might not do a very good job because apparently he is a very shy person. Mr. Horace Chang. Thank you, presiding member. Well, there is a lot of freedom at the House Committee. People can say whatever they want. Since 2:30, I've been following what members said, but I did not want to waste my time, and I replied a lot of emails from members of the public, and yet the discussion is still about something irrelevant, and apparently I did not miss anything important during this time. We are seriously wasting time at LegCo. I've lost count on the number of meetings convened by you. It should be more than 6 or 7 times. Mr. Horace Chang, please focus on Ms. Tanya Chan's motion. I'm coming to that. Well, a member was talking about non-executive director, so I hope you would give me some time. You, well, it is my turn. Please do not interrupt. I stopped Mr. Al-Nohin. Well, at least you gave him a few minutes. Be patient. Well, the pandams should be very patient. You should have some patience towards pro-establishment members as well. Please be patient. Presiding member, we are virtually in a black hole at LegCo. So the time has been spent, but without any results. Since you have been presiding over the meetings, we have stalled at a proceeding that is not related to election of the chairman, deputy chairman. We have drifted everywhere. So at the end of the day, is this an abuse of the process to elect chairman and deputy chairman of the House Committee? So I think at the end of the day, the point is to force the Secretary General to attend to address issues not related to the election of the chairman and deputy chairman, and that is why we are at the situation now. I do not expect you, the presiding member, to change your mind, but I want to go on record how you have been presiding over these meetings. In my opinion, you are incapable of presiding over the election of the chairman and deputy chairman. Thank you. I remind members that we are discussing Ms. Tanya Chan's motion, which is shown on the screen. Please focus on the motion and be concise. Mr. Ted Hui. Since everyone is very concerned about the attendance of Mr. Kenneth Chan, I have explained the connection between the attendance of Mr. Kenneth Chan and the election of the chairman and deputy chairman, so I won't repeat myself. But some issues do require Mr. Kenneth Chan to be present. In Ms. Tanya Chan's motion and other members' motions, they touch upon the lack of openness of LegCo. While I have an accusation, LegCo has been sealed off, and our ability to attend meetings has been affected. Closure of LegCo, or the sealing of the LegCo complex, led to me being late for a meeting at LegCo. So would Mr. Kenneth Chan put in place any arrangements on that? According to Cap 382 of the Laws of Hong Kong, the Electoral and Privileges Ordinance, Section 19, the police often invokes this section in laying charges against legislators, preventing LegCo members from attending meetings is a crime. I often drive, and whenever there are police officers, I would be questioned before I'm allowed inside. And sometimes, if there are no police officers, the gate remains shut and we cannot go in. So the situation was different every single day. So we would only find out at the last moment whether we could enter. I was once questioned for 10 minutes before I could enter the LegCo complex. So I want to go on record with my accusation. Such arrangement might be a breach of Section 19 of the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance, in hampering members from attending meetings. So with the concurrence of the LegCo Secretariat, would the relevant offenses be involved? All these would affect whether we could attend meetings and whether we could take part in the election of the chairman and deputy chairman. Do these warrant answers from Mr. Kenneth Chan? Let me continue. I have made my stance very clear. Since Mr. Kenneth Chan plays a pivotal role in the election of the chairman and deputy chairman, if he refused to attend meetings, did you yourself or the secretariat try to invite him to come? I agree with your practice last time. The meeting should be suspended and an invitation should be sent to Mr. Kenneth Chan to attend. We should clarify certain facts surrounding his absence. We should not continue with the election because some important issues surrounding the election could not be clarified, so there's no way we can proceed with the election. And there is something missed by many members. I'd like to talk about how Mr. Kenneth Chan handled proceedings relating to the Fugitive Offenders Ordinance Amendment. The issue was brought to the House Committee at a special meeting. A decision was made whether an instruction would be issued to replace Mr. James To, and Mr. Kenneth Chan played a significant role in that. And after the decision was passed at the House Committee, Mr. Kenneth Chan instructed the Secretariat to issue a notice bypassing Mr. James To, requesting members to reply in writing whether they accept the House Committee's instruction in replacing Mr. James To. I believe no one would deny such facts. Would this occur again in the future at other bills committees? Can the House Committee Chairman and Kenneth Chan alone change the proceedings at a bills committee? So this warrants the presence of Mr. Kenneth Chan. This is a legitimate question. This is about the future chairman and Mr. Kenneth Chan, who played a heavy role, and whether there would be repeats. In the future, we might be dealing with Article 23 instead of the FOO. So if we have questions, then Mr. Kenneth Chan should tell us whether his handling in the past was wrong, and did that lead to the unrest in Hong Kong now. So in the if the FOO saga, the relevant electoral records were still not clear. When the Secretary for Security attended the resumption of the second reading debate and formally withdrew the bill, the Bills Committee Chairman should have spoken. But as of now, we do not know who the legitimate chairman of the Bills Committee was. When you look at electoral records, there were no records on relevant meetings. There were no formal records. So are we going to have a void in the official records of electoral? So no one knows whether Mr. Kenneth Chan issued a written request and whether it was a case of ultra vires. So this part was nowhere to be found in the electoral records. I wonder whether it had to do with Mr. Kenneth Chan, or could the clerk answer this question? In summary, there is no way we can proceed with the election of the chairman, presiding member, before Mr. Kenneth Chan agrees to attend the meeting. We should not convene further meetings because we won't have the relevant information. I hope you would consider that. We have 3 minutes left only. So Mr. Ray Chan, you would not have enough time to speak, and we won't have time to deal with Ms. Tanya Chan's motion. So at the next meeting, we will continue to discuss whether to deal with Ms. Chan's motion. Mr. Chan, you will be the first member at the next meeting. The meeting is adjourned.